I chat with you, I look at the stuff you're doing, see you winning fights, see you getting paid, see you having, teaching, having other businesses, seeming like you're having a good life, in better shape. Like, I mean, it looks like you're doing all right. Looks like you're doing okay.
Yeah, life's been good, man. So I'm lucky. I'm fortunate.
Were you scared when you left the UFC this last time? Were you nervous about professional prospects? You're doing well now, but were you nervous at the time that that maybe you had an uncertain future?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's always the fear of the unknown, right? Because you leave, my contract was up with the UFC, and you're like, well, I could go here, I could go there. I got some offers in the beginning that I was like, what? Like, I'll retire. I'm not gonna fight for that anymore. Like, I'm at the point in my career where I won't call out the promotions. They were like regional ones, and it was cool, like that they right away. It was, I mean, within like a few days, like, hey, you want to fight for us? But the money was just like, it was extremely low. And not to discredit them, like they're trying to build, and who knows, maybe there's guys that were in my position that jump on it. But for me, the point I am in my career, it's about money. I'm able to do this full time, and I have for, I don't know, probably more than 10 years, without having a regular job for the most part. So for me, I got to go where the money goes. I was in the UFC. I fought on pay-per-views. I fought on live TV. I fought on Fox and stuff like that. So those were like bucket list type things. So after that, I was like, man, it's just about the money. I don't even, if nobody watches, but somebody wants to give me $1 million, like, I'll fight in the parking lot. It's
Absolutely.
not about notoriety for me. It's about being able to have a career, support myself, and do something I enjoy. Obviously having fans is great, but that's not everything right now. This is my job, so I treat it like a job.
You've fought for glory and also for PFL since leaving the UFC. Do you have the flexibility to do both with your contracts, or did you have to, once you went to the PFL, did you have to, I forget the exact timeline, did you have to like put kickboxing for sure on hold?
No, so I was actually able to work it into my contract. When I signed with PFL, I was with Glory. So I kind of, we approached them and we're like, it's two different sports, right? You guys are signing me to MMA. This is kickboxing. Like, your records aren't even the same, any of it. So I was, it was a little go back and forth at first with PFL, but they understood that, yeah, it is another sport, and that I wouldn't compete in kickboxing during the season of PFL. With that being said, since COVID, I honestly haven't heard a single word from Glory. I don't really know what they're doing. I don't think my contract is valid anymore. I'd have to look, honestly. I haven't even thought about it. I enjoyed kickboxing, but again, the money wasn't great in it. Those are rough fights for less money. It was just something I wanted to do. Like, I enjoy fighting. I did it for free for a long time, and getting paid for it is great. So now fighting world level guys for the money that is not so great is not always that appealing. But with that being said, again, if Glory called and I wasn't doing anything, I had a lot of fun kickboxing. I enjoyed it. I thought about getting into like bare knuckle or boxing or any of that. Just, I've got a few years left, so I might as well have fun with it and make that money, but also create memories of things that, when I'm old, I want to be able to sit down and be like happy with what I've done. So we'll see what the future holds. But right now it's PFL.
That's cool. And I think, even if you never fight, in glory again or what have you, the fact that you negotiated that is significant, right? Because I've always thought it's a tough thing when an MMA fighter's MMA contract puts, basically either prohibits them from competing in other sports or leaves it up to the promoter, or puts them in a situation where if they're some type of global name like Conor McGregor, that the promotion makes maybe as much as they do to switch, like they own a piece of you. Like if you want to fight a boxer like Floyd Mayweather, because it's like, where does that stop? If I want to do jiu-jitsu tournaments, or if I want to go try out for on a baseball team, do they control that too? So it's significant that you all were able to negotiate that. I mean, like, whether or not you ever use it it is significant that you're able to do that. It's precedent, I think. So
Yeah,
that's
I don't want to close myself off, right? So if the opportunity is there, granted, if PFL was stuck hard on you can't kickbox, PFL pays more,
mm,
I probably would have agreed. But they were more than willing to work with it. I just had to explain it in a way that they understood, like that I wasn't going to be taking kickboxing fights between my MMA fights and PFL or get hurt during the season. And just like I said, it's a different sport, just like boxing is a different sport. But yeah, the UFC does have a hold on that, which makes sense. I actually get it from a business perspective because NFL guys can't go out and God, I don't know, play. I don't know what they would play in the off season, but they can't be trying out for other teams, but they make a lot of money and the team owns them. And I do understand why the UFC does it, because the fighters are their assets. And if you're out there getting hurt doing crazy stuff or other sports for other companies, then they're like, well, why are we paying you so much?
Oh no, for sure. I get that. I mean, I think everyone's perspective, it makes sense. But yeah, like at the NFL, like they have guaranteed money, right? They have a pension and a union
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What's interesting with the NFL is because they basically they formed a monopoly when they like combined those two leagues, right? Like, so it really is like a monopoly. I don't think the UFC has a monopoly in MMA. I think the NFL is pretty much a monopoly in professional high level football. When they did that, in order, like they literally were forced by the United States Congress to allow players to unionize in order to have that. So like, yeah, you can negotiate things, and they do own those players, and they put a lot of restrictions on them. But I guess then the negotiating or the compromises, well, we have a union, I have a pension, I have guaranteed money and stuff like that. And so it's good to see fighters that are, at least start demanding conversations with promoters, like, let's talk. Can we talk about this? Can we negotiate? That's a promising thing for sure. Cause I mean, what you all do is as hard as anything, as anything other sport out there. One of the things that was interesting to me too, is that when you went back to taking MMA fights, you went back up to, you moved to light heavyweight, seemingly permanently.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk about why you did that, how it's been going, and also, Chris, I mean, I think aesthetics is one thing, which is notable, but also your performance. I mean, you seem like you're leaner, you're better conditioned going up. A lot of times, people in in the latter half of their career, when they go up, it's like a reflection. No insult meant, but it's a reflection of like, man, I'm tired of killing myself. And then you see them get like in less shape, and it's maybe an indication of a less commitment, understandably a less commitment to doing it. But it seems like you definitely don't have less of a commitment to fitness and stuff as you move up in weight.
Yeah, actually, it's gotten the opposite for me. I've become more into, one day I'm going to be done fighting too. So I don't want to turn into just this big fat guy that gets lazy. Like fitness has always been something I'm into. I'm obviously not like a bodybuilder or anything, but I've been working out since I was a kid, like on my own. Just always enjoyed going to the gym, lifting weights, doing stuff like that. But yeah, the moving up weight was not due to laziness. I think I was like stunting myself for so long, if that makes any sense. I mean, when I was fighting middleweight, I was walking around heavier than I am right now, because my body would just fluctuate so much. The cut was so hard. I mean, I'm 6'3", and I was walking around like 220, trying to get down to 185, just because I'd always been in middleweight for the most part, and I never even thought about going up. Those guys in the UFC seem so huge. But taking away that cut has made me feel a lot better. And I think it actually gave me some more years of my career. I got to the point, because Glory was, 187 instead of 185. So when I left the UFC, I was fighting middleweight. I never missed weight or anything, but the cuts were hard. I mean, the last 2 pounds was taking me like 4 hours. I'd be up all night cutting weight when they switched to the morning weigh-ins. And it just got rougher and rougher. And when Glory, they do kilograms, so it was 187. So I actually had an extra 2 pounds. And one of my fights, let's see, my last middleweight fight with Mike Lemaire, I missed the first time on the scale and had to go cut more. And I was just done, man. Like I made it. I went back. I sat in the bathtub and everything, but I was drained. I was dead. And I just started realizing, I'm like, man, I have an extra 2 pounds and I'm still struggling to make it. So I went up, and it's worked out well. I don't feel like overpowered or anything like that. And it is a big jump, but it's not the jump that I thought it would be. Now, granted, you look at some of those guys like Glover Teixeira, he cuts from like 250. Um, PFL, I would say, doesn't have giant light heavyweights. Like some of the guys in the UFC cut a lot of weight to make 205. So it's a little interesting. I haven't run into that problem yet where a guy just like massively outweighed me or was bigger than me. But staying with that, I would say another big change is my girlfriend Whitney is a nutrition coach. So we live together, and honestly, I could put a lot of it to her because she eats very strict. And due to that, I do too. When it's in a household, it's easy if everybody's doing it. If you're dieting and your family, if you're dieting to cut weight and your family's just eating whatever, it's kind of hard to look at them and like look over at their food and look at yours, and you cheat a lot. With her, man, like my snacks and stuff in the house, we don't have like chips and everything. We have like protein bars. So even if I do get like the munchies, I obviously smoke weed too. If I get the munchies, man, it's a little depressing sometimes, but I'm happy about it the next day because it'll be like protein bars instead of like a giant bag of chips or candy.
That's excellent. Have you felt like have you felt the difference in the fight, not cutting so much weight, and that like maybe you feel like your endurance is better or your strength is better? It's so crazy that people are expected to perform like the best of their abilities like 24 hours after they were intentionally like getting themselves closer to death. So I mean, have you felt it in the fights, like felt physically better in the fights in addition to just feeling better and healthier all year round?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do feel better in the fights. It's not something that really stands out, I guess, because I always felt good at middleweight the next day. But I'd walk back in the ring at 210, after weighing in at 185 or 186. Now it just takes a lot of the stress out of it, right? I wake up and I walk down. I can diet down to 205 without ever getting in the sauna or sweating it out. I just do my normal workouts. Fight week, all that stuff is just way less stressful. And my body is just more at ease, because I train at that weight. That's what I started telling myself when I switched. I'm like, man, I train at 205, 210, sometimes 215, but that's not far off. That's not like training at 220 and cutting to 185 and doing this big bounce up and down. So I enjoy fight week. I eat healthy, but I'm not starving myself or anything like that. And it just like overall like feels more enjoyable and less miserable, which I think prolongs my career. I think it's better on my joints and my body to not do that big fluctuation, especially the older I get. I'm 35 now. And yeah, the bouncing up and down. I think weight cutting is okay. It's not great right now. Some guys are still killing themselves, but there's something to be said for just like you're betting on yourself, betting on the training you did, the skills you have, and fighting at your natural weight.
Excellent. One of the other changes you made in recent years was where you train, right? And like who you train with. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. You were with Factory X for a while, and I believe now you're not. What made you decide to make some changes? Who do you train with now, and how's it? What have you noticed in terms of any differences?
So yeah, I guess the last time you and I spoke, I've literally changed everything. I started with kind of a clean slate in my entire career. So through COVID, I made a bunch of switches. So starting with, I train at Genesis now instead of Factory X with Jake Ramos. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was like Justin Gaethje's coach. He used to be one of the coaches at Grudge too back in the day, and now he has his own gym. And that's been great because he specializes in boxing. Excuse me. So my hands, I feel like have gotten a lot better. I think it's noticeable that I have a lot more power. And all he did was change a few small things with like my feet and everything. It's all the same things. I mean, I guess I work out more and stuff, but my power comes from just little details that he changed, a lot with boxing. So that's been great. So I do MMA, boxing, and wrestling at Genesis. And then I hired Steve Hordinsky, who is my jiu-jitsu coach. So he's a 3rd degree black belt under Helson. And he has a gym here in Colorado that I'm a partner in. So I also work for Steve at the gym. And then I've got Jake. And I still do strength and conditioning at Landau. But I changed management. It was kind of everything. And it's been great. I think that attributes a lot to my success in PFL this last year, because this was my fight with Sorty was our very first fight working together, all of them. So I'd never had any of them corner me or anything. It was a little weird at first because you get so used to your routines. I was at the other gym for probably 10 or 11 years. I was one of the founders of the gym and the first fighter there. So to change after so many years was actually, in a way, like good, mentally good, because it put me in an uncomfortable situation the first fight, which I think made me perform better. When you get out of your comfort zone a little bit, I just kept telling myself, like, I changed for a reason. I changed to learn more, to get better and do all these things. So I just need to like trust in them that they know what they're doing. They've been around the sport for, both of them have been around the sport for, 20 plus years. So they know what they're doing. It's not like I hired somebody off their couch and yada, yada. But I do attribute a lot of that to helping my career now.
A lot of people, just regular folks that train, like 9-to-5ers that train or looking to get into training, whether it's jiu-jitsu or boxing or kickboxing. Now, as a coach and owner of a small academy myself, I encounter these types of folks a lot, and people are always they're wondering, like, how do I find the right gym? How do I test out? Where do I go off a website? Do I visit, or like, is it okay if I visit multiple gyms at once to see which one works better for me and things of that nature? So I think a lot of people are interested when high level fighters switch gyms into what goes into it. How did you go about deciding when you wanted a clean slate from training to management? How did you go about, Chris, deciding where you were going to go? Did you switch because you knew of people that you wanted to work with, or did you decide you wanted to make changes and then start looking? And if so, how did that process go?
It was a little bit of both. Luckily, I've been in this sport for a long time, so I know a ton of people and have a lot of relationships. So I was able to kind of look back at like what coaches have done that are around me, or like, do I want to move? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I just looked at coaches and like how their other guys performed. I would say another big part that seems opposite to a lot of people is I was at a gym that had a massive amount of people and not enough coaches. So you weren't actually getting the time of like coaching that you should training for fights, because there's so many guys. A lot of people flock to those, like we call mega gyms or whatever, and some of them do a great job, I'm sure. But it just, for me, I was like, man, I want like more attention on myself. Like, fighting's a selfish sport. If I'm getting ready for a fight, I want my coaches to watch me train, coach me during the rounds, and not coach a room full of guys at the same time. And I get it, that sounds like real selfish, but it's a selfish sport. So, and if I'm paying them, then I should get the coaching that I want. So I actually went to a smaller gym. Like, Genesis has good quality people, but not a massive amount of them. And Jake likes to keep it that way. Rather than trying to recruit everybody in and get as many people as you can, my training group of guys that are my size is like 5 guys, and that's all I need, and that's all they need. We don't need 100 guys to train with. If you have 5 solid guys, that way, if one's sick or whatever, you still have people to train with. So right now we have a good solid group of guys my size, and it's more focused and more specific to each of our fights. I think those gyms people can get lost in, no matter who you are,
That's really, it's that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's super fascinating. I feel like I see this trend where of people that become successful like as pro fighters, where you start with whomever you start with, like whoever you start learning martial arts or wrestling or whatever the case may be. And it's, a lot of times it's a local person. Maybe they were great, maybe they weren't great, but it's, some local place. And then you find some success, and then people then they say, well, I need to get to the mega gym. Like I need to get accepted to one of those, um, to to follow the whole iron sharpening iron. I need a bunch of bodies in there, people that are all, you know, 30, 40 people that are in the big leagues in the room and stuff like that. And then I feel those who make it, those who become really elite and or last long enough, a lot of times, at least those who can afford it, kind of go back, to square one in a sense, where they go to a smaller place, like an old boxing format, where it's a smaller room. You're working, one on one with a coach that really knows you, and then they arrange for sparring. Take you somewhere, bring you somewhere. But it's kind of like you see the circle. Like I'm in a small place. I need to go to the bigger place. And then if you can afford it and you become elite enough, you're like, yeah, I need to be small again. I need a coach that really knows me and focus on me. Do you see that happening a lot out there as well? I feel like that's what happens once people become elite enough where they can afford to get specialized training. They kind of go back to a small room.
Yeah, totally. I think you hit it on the head. I think with MMA, because we don't make the money that other professional sports do, like boxers, and I know there's some lower level boxers, but boxers don't train in teams for the most part. It is like your camp, individualized, your coaches are at every practice. And that's what I built now. And I prefer that actually. I got that actually from like Weidman. I used to go spar with him all the time, but he would bring me out for sparring. And I realized, like, man, his coaches are at every practice. When him and I spar, it's just him and I in the gym that spar.
Wow.
And his coaches were there cornering like a fight. They did everything like fight simulated. And I started learning, like, the more I went out there, I was like, man, I go to like classes full of, 40 people, 50 people, and it's never tailored to me or like my opponent or anything like that. It's just show up to class, get better. And there's something to be said for that. I think there's a good mix, but when you're gearing up for a fight and you're in camp, you want all eyes on you, because my coaches and I need to work as like a machine. I need to understand their voices in a loud crowd. So if they're yelling at me every day in the gym and cornering me, then I can pick those voices out, and just little details like that come with experience and stuff. What else was I going to say? I had something else. Man, I drew a blank.
No, it's okay if you think about it. Definitely jump in. But that's really cool, and that's a really instructive experience. Are you recounting, going out there and training with Weidman? That's pretty cool that you're able to learn from your peers and stuff in order to tailor it for you. But yeah, no, that's super interesting. And you mentioned too, you've been you're teaching now. Were you teaching a lot before? Is this kind of new too? You teaching on a regular basis?
No, I mean, I've taught for probably 10 or more years too.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, not always super consistent, but I've done private lessons and stuff forever, and I enjoy it, and going back now that I teach full-time also, there's another thing I realized with some of these big gyms, or people flock to those big gyms because they want the training partners. And I think cross training is great to an extent. I'm all about being like loyal to my team and my coaches, but that loyalty comes with trust. So I think if you're a good coach, then you should be okay with cross training. There's a lot of them out there that aren't. And one thing I've always thought is, if you're not okay with me cross training, then maybe you are worried about what you're teaching, or me leaving. But if you're confident in your skills and I'm getting everything I need, then I have no reason to leave. And that's how I feel right now. And everything is good. So my coaches like encourage me to go to their gyms or go spar here, go to Elevation and spar with some of their guys, back and forth. They're not worried about me leaving, because I think that they're confident in everything that they're showing me and everything that we're doing, and it's working. And I feel like that as a coach too, with my classes. I tell people, because I've had students ask like, hey, I'm not going to come this week. I was going to go over here. And I'm like, do it. If they end up leaving, they were going to leave anyway at some point. So I feel good enough that I'm probably one of the most accomplished teachers around Denver as far as, kickboxing and MMA. So I've been there, I've done that, I've been in the sport forever, and I feel confident with it. And if people leave, then they leave. But I actually prefer my students sometimes to go cross train, go to another gym and spar, because then you can try the stuff that we've been working that everybody hasn't, and it's more applicable. If you're in a class and everybody learns the same thing and you're trying to do it in class, everybody's like, we just did that, I know it. It gives you a chance to test out things outside of the gym of people that aren't seeing what you're doing.
No, that's well put. That's super interesting, and it makes sense that you're saying you've been teaching for over a decade, because I've been in the room with you. I've taken a class with you, and you're super technical as an instructor. Like, you're a very technical fighter, but you're so technical as an instructor as well. And you have really creative things you work on. And you're able to explain that well everywhere. Like, right, I think when I took a seminar with you, it was mostly like MMA and grappling based, and it was super interesting. Like, a bunch of stuff that maybe people haven't even gotten to see you gotten a chance to do in the fights, and you have all this knowledge. And one of the new things you're doing is this training app, Jiu-Jitsu on the Go, which you were kind enough to give us access to it. I've been using it, been showing it to my students, encouraging them to subscribe to it and sign up for it. Wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, because I know you're a student. You love technique. You love studying, and now you're sharing it. You've got a ton of people on there, and with striking, with jiu-jitsu. You've got jiu-jitsu OG legends like Fabio Santos and Javier Vasquez. You've got training partners of yours that are in the UFC. Bellator veterans. You've got a bunch of hidden gems that are like from certain regions. You've got interviews on there in addition to stuff. And I know you're going to be teaching on there as well. Talk about technique, studying, and this app, and how you got involved with it.
Yeah. So first off, it's called Jiu-Jitsu on the Go. I know you already said that. I understand the name. So my jiu-jitsu coach actually started it. Steve Hordinsky started it a little bit ago. And then since we've been working together, and now I'm a partner at the gym with him, he brought me on as part owner of the app. So he had already been loading like jiu-jitsu content on there for a really long time, and he's a great instructor. So now that I'm partnered with him, I'm going to start the striking programs. All of that stuff is dropping on there soon. But what we're going to do is we're going to make the app is available on iOS and Android. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it, one, it's going to be a lot of content from people all over the world. Like we've got coaches from everywhere on there. Like you said, some of the names, like Kaiki's on there. I think he's one of Hickson's first black belts. So we have a big pool of people. And we're also going to kind of go backwards and film all like fundamentals, so that maybe you're uncomfortable to go to a gym, your first day without ever doing it. Our app can help you start from day one to, other black belts watch it. We've got so many people on there teaching that, you've been in jiu-jitsu and stuff for a long time. Just because you're a black belt doesn't mean you know everything. Most black belts that are great learn from each other and other people. So it's not like you stop learning when you get your black belt. And it's just kind of a platform to share knowledge. And now we're going to be where we've got striking and MMA on there. Where we've got wrestling. It's just going to be like a full app where you can learn from home with just instructional seminars. Like you said, interviews. Maybe you're a fan of people on there and you want to hear their backstory or how they got into it. Like hearing Fabio Santos talk about getting into jiu-jitsu and stuff. I don't know if you watched that video yet.
I did, yeah.
It's cool. I mean, that guy's, if you're in jiu-jitsu, you know who that is. So it's a fun project, and it's also, like we talked about, fighting doesn't last forever. And this is kind of where I'm trying to take my life after. I want to stay in the sport when I'm done fighting, and I want to teach and I want to help other people, because I don't honestly know what I'd be doing with my life now if I didn't get into MMA. It seems crazy to think about. But the sport has given me everything in my life. I've been able to travel, see the world. I've learned so much about business. I've been able to run my own businesses because of it. But it's all from fighting and learning. And you almost have to manage yourself at the same time as having a manager. You learn how to read contracts. There's a lot of like deeper things. I don't know if these fighters realize that they're learning that are real life skills that transfer. So this app, I'm hoping, will also be my retirement plan, but I never wanted to stop fighting and then try to start like a business. You know, I feel like they should overlap because you'll run into some hard times if you don't start planning for your future.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And it's cool to hear, you know, the plans you all have to even add to it. Because already as it stands, I mean, I feel like it's one of the more well-rounded like technique or study apps that I've seen out there. Like there's a lot of great individual people who have like their website and like everything that they teach and everything that they know, and it's amazing. And there's some great stuff out there. But this is one of the more like diverse ones in terms of the people you have on there and the types of styles. Even within jiu-jitsu, you've got people of different styles with the gi, without the gi, people that have certain games. So it's already really, really cool. It's nice to hear that you all are so ambitious with this and want to grow it. I was wondering how much do you study outside of the gym, and how historically, how much do you do now? Like watching tape, looking at techniques and things of that nature. How much do you do that, Chris? How important and useful has that been for you?
I do it all the time. So our app, the nice thing, I don't know if you've tried this yet, you can download the videos. So like if you're getting on a plane, you can like watch them. I do that when I fly. I'm addicted to the sport. That's why I'm still in it. I always said I would be done when I'm like, you know, kind of burned out or whatever. I still love going to practice every day. I've got sparring later today I'm excited about. So I watch video all the time. I wrote down, so PFL is doing the Challenger Series, and the week 1 is light heavyweights, and they're going to give one of those guys a contract to be in the tournament. So I'm actually partnered with, I don't know if you've heard of Millions.
No.
It's an athlete platform website, but I'm actually doing a live stream during those fights, kind of talking about them, watching them, so you can watch with me. It's millions.co. And it's a cool platform, but what I was getting at is I watch fights all the time. So I wrote down every matchup. I have a notebook. I take notes on these guys like I'm going to fight all of them. But I do that with other fights too, you know, like I'm addicted to it. I watch jiu-jitsu, I watch boxing, I watch kickboxing. I watch promotions around the world that some people probably have never heard of. You know, you can learn all the time. I see things and I write it down. Like, I'm like, well, that was cool. Or like little details, you know. I'm not trying to change my whole style, but I'll see like a little detail here and there, whether somebody finishes a choke in a different way or whatever. All I'm getting at is, yeah, I'm addicted to it. I watch it all the time. I study it all the time. I watch a ton of jiu-jitsu videos now because I really put a lot into getting even better on the ground. And it's been fun. It kind of like revamped my love of jiu-jitsu.
That's cool. Yeah, well, it says a lot when elite fighters like yourself talk about how important studying is, not just for your development, but just to enjoy yourself, right? And to enrich your life too. It's fun. I try to tell students, I'm like, you know, when I give you homework to study, this is cool. I'm just telling you to watch fights, right? Like you're not doing algebra, or, you know, like this is a fun thing. It helps your experience. It enriches your life. You know, you could be at work and you could just be bored at work, listening to some elevator music, or you could maybe watch a match or watch a technique or what, you know, and on an app or something like that, or on YouTube. It just enriches your life and makes it more fun. So that's really cool to hear. I'm excited. I'm excited. I hadn't heard about that platform. I'd love to follow along, like you watching fights. It's a really cool idea, and I've definitely been enjoying the app so far, and excited for whatever's next for you in the cage as well. Do you have any sense of when you're going to be able to get back in there, or too early yet?
So all I've been told so far is that the PFL season starts again in April.
Right.
I believe they're doing it in Florida, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm crossing my fingers for Florida because Florida seems a lot more normal right now, and I don't want to quarantine like we had to for Atlantic City. That was brutal. But yeah, so I've been loving fighting for PFL. I like the tournament format. I've just been preparing my body to like staying in shape so that once camp like officially starts, I build off of that. I think a lot of people start training and conditioning when camp starts, and then you spend half the time getting in shape rather than learning. Right now I'm learning, trying new things and seeing what works, because when I'm in camp, I stick to what I know and dial that in. I don't try to learn new things during my training camps. I just try to sharpen everything. So this is the fun part. Now I can go to the gym and I can have fun. There's no stress. Try new things. If it doesn't work, if I get tapped out or whatever, then, you know, I scrap it. But in camp, you know, you're like building your mind too. So going in, trying something new and getting tapped out or anything is discouraging.
Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because you need a, like, yeah, in training camps, you've got to watch the state of your mind as much as anything, as much as your immune system and your body. You don't want to mess with your own mind. You kind of need to like be building with confidence all along while challenging yourself, which is tricky. But that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I hope for your all's convenience that it's a place like Florida too. You all definitely won't be inconvenienced by stuff there. They'll probably mandate you have to lick the doorknob when you get there, because they're just to prove you're not scared of COVID in Florida. Yeah. Florida, a lot of friends of mine are now they're in South Florida and stuff, and they've at least been able to keep their, you know, at least less disruptions for their gyms and their businesses and stuff. So that's that. Fingers crossed for you there. But no, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for chatting about this wide range of things. It's been great to pick your brain.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, the app is fairly new for me, so trying to get as much exposure and build it up like I can, so that I can have a retirement plan or a career after. So it's a fun project, and it keeps me in the sport. So like you said, I'm just watching videos while I'm working, and there's way worse things I can think of doing with my time.